Crazy. All right, we're gonna get rolling here, guys. First off, I want to introduce Marty Kelly, who's with us today on this call. Marty is in, I guess you'd say, just completed his 19th season as the head coach at Roger Williams University down in Rhode Island. I'm very familiar with Marty as we played our college lacrosse during the same time. Marty is a graduate of John Jay High School, which is in Westchester County of New York. And he was a two-time All-American there and went on to Nazareth College. Were you on their initial team, Marty?
I was not. They had when I got there, it was actually only the fourth year that they had the program.
Okay.
And so by the time I graduated, they had 7 full seasons. Yeah.
Played under legendary coach Scott Nelson, 3-time All-American attackman there, and a proud winner of the Turnbull Award, which is awarded annually to the top attackman in the country for Division III in his senior year in 1992. So that's quite an accomplishment, Marty. It's something that nobody can take away from you, and something that a lot of hard work went into. So I try and always push that message on the kids that hard work pays off.
I know, but I try to, and I appreciate that, Coach. I think Division III only had about 50 schools back then, but I try not to minimize it too much. It was a long time ago, right, Coach?
That's right. Well, today here, guys, we're going to talk about an aspect of the recruiting process that has grown quite a bit over recent years. And we're going to talk about showcase camps and prospect days and the differentiators between the two. So you better understand what these events are, what their purposes are, how they can help you as you navigate your way through this process. Certainly we have all 3 classes, our 21s, 22s, and 23s, from juniors to freshmen right now on this. So understand it's a little bit different. There's prioritization based on what year you are is certainly a factor. But freshmen, you want to start to understand these things so that as you get further along in the process, you know what's going on and you're educated. So I guess I'll open right up with the simple question: what is a prospect day and what is a showcase camp, Marty?
Yeah, how we at Roger Williams kind of structure them is when we have a showcase, that entails having anywhere between maybe 80 to 100 individual players kind of register. And then what we'll do is we'll split those players up onto each team. So it's a one-day event with each team guaranteed to play 3 games. And we'll have usually primarily 3 coaches, whether Division II, mainly Division III coaches, coach those teams for that day. And so it can be a little challenging in the sense that you're kind of getting thrown together pretty quickly with some players that you're just not used to playing with, which can be a challenge, obviously, in itself. But it does allow coaches, when the showcase is, when it's open, even though we're having it on Roger Williams' campus, we are having other coaches come. So it's not just an event for Roger Williams and a sole recruiting event for Roger Williams. We try to have, again, at least, 10 to 12 coaches actually coaching the teams, as well as the additional coaches there, just to kind of evaluate. But it kind of does show coaches how kids can kind of work together when they're not familiar with playing with one another. And that includes some of the things we might look for are, how are you moving off ball offensively? Are you moving the ball? Are you a ball hog? How are we, when a double comes, are we looking to move the ball quickly? Are we providing an outlet? Are we making that second pass? Defensively, we're looking about, who can communicate, it's not easy for a goalie to start communicating with three close defensemen that he doesn't really even know. But if he starts to take charge and can really command, and all the defense starts working together verbally, that shows us a lot that they're willing to work together. Now, it's not always, may not always work that you want, but we've been able to see, we get a lot out of that, being able to see that. And plus, you get a lot of one-on-one time with those particular coaches that are coaching your team. And I know Coach Murphy, I think you've done that a few times and helped us out at that event too. And again, it just allows us to kind of see, interact with kids right away. We keep kids who are from the same high school team. A lot of times it's from the same club team. If you all know each other, we're happy to kind of keep you on the same team. So there is a little bit of continuity. But it just really, the showcase for us gives you only one self-names this campus, allows our coaching staff to get a chance to see a play. And then other coaches as well, over this span of 3 days. And what we do is we film it, and we provide the film free of charge. I shouldn't say free, but it's all part of the cost. But we will post the film up, and we'll send it out and post it on our website, so you can download those films as well and clip them up as you need to. The prospect day, how we run them, is sometimes they're kind of long from what we've heard. But it includes a pretty full day, because I really want to we obviously charge money for it, but at the same time, I want to provide the biggest bang kind of for your buck, in the sense of, we have our normal day usually starts with a presentation by myself and the coaching staff that lasts about a half an hour, in one of our rooms, one of our classrooms. Parents are invited to that, obviously. We usually bring in some players. I'll leave the room for about 15 minutes and have players come in, and they will answer questions that you might have. And I leave so they can kind of answer maybe as honestly as they can about certain things. I think it's important to learn about how I can be, and I'm sure Coach Clemming, Coach Murphy can be a little challenging at times, right? But at the same time, it's good to know that up front. And get some expectations and some information provided by the players themselves. And then what we do is we'll actually bring the guys to lunch. Our assistant coaches will bring them over and usually take them to brunch in our dining hall, which is a big sell for Roger Williams. We have one of the top 10 dining halls in the country. And so, we certainly want to showcase that, because as we all know, food's pretty important. I've had two daughters go through college now, and when you're paying room and board at a university and the food stinks, it's not the most ideal scenario as a parent. So we certainly try to showcase that while the guys are going to eat. We have the parents stick around, and then the parents can ask me questions directly for about another half hour, 45 minutes. And that's actually worked out really well, because again, the parents, will ask additional questions that they probably don't feel comfortable asking in front of you guys. They don't want to embarrass you. But obviously parents have different questions, as Coach Murphy knows, that than you guys would in certain aspects. Then you take an admissions tour. The admissions group comes in, they give a 15-minute overview. We break you up, we send you out on tours. And then after those tours are done, then we bring you to the field for about an hour and a half, hour and 45 minutes to just run you through some drills, do some 6-on-6 stuff, some sided stuff, a lot of stick work and a lot of footwork. Not a lot, but just enough to kind of get a sense as to who's got a pretty good stick, who's used to being on the ladder and has some pretty strong footwork, who's pretty good at ground balls or has some pretty strong fundamentals. And then we'll have, we usually try to have like a full field scrimmage, maybe for about 20 to 25 minutes, just to kind of get guys up and down the field. So, so it could be about a 4 to 5 hour day, our prospect day. I do think it gives guys an opportunity to see the entire school. I'm not sure how other schools might run theirs. I know I have heard stories where they kind of just bring you in, they practice, and then you're kind of gone. I have a strong feel. I mean, my biggest thing is you have to choose a school based on the academics first and foremost. You have to get on campus to see if it's a pretty good fit. I know sometimes it'd be challenging, especially in the summertime, to see kind of the social aspect of things and kind of the the buzz around campus. And but a lot of times it could be a way to cross Roger Williams off your list. What I share in that prospect day during my little PowerPoint presentation is an example of when I was a senior in college. um, I got an internship at Merrill Lynch as a stockbroker assistant, and I did that because I felt like that was something I should do. I had two older brothers that played college lacrosse. And especially Coach Clemmy knows from back in the day, all those guys, they seemed, and I grew up right outside New York City. So it's like you played college lacrosse and then you went to Wall Street. Like that's what you tried to do. So I got an internship, and within about 2 weeks, I realized I didn't want to be a stockbroker. You know, the bad thing is I still have to keep going to work for the rest of the semester to get credit for that internship. But I use that as an example is that I was glad I learned that I didn't want to be a stockbroker in that semester, as opposed to getting a job, commuting into the city for a year, hating it, and realizing this isn't what I wanted to do. So I do think prospect days can be beneficial in that regard, as though even though you're paying a little bit of money to go, it could actually kind of narrow down your choices for schools. And hopefully Roger Williams stays on the list if you're there and you really like it. But if you don't like it, at least then, and you can focus on other schools. So I don't know if that provides a little bit of between the two, Coach, but hopefully that makes sense.
It does. I'm going to kind of ask you a couple questions based on showcase camps and prospect days. A showcase camp, when you as a coach attend a showcase, I would imagine you do a little bit of homework prior to going to the field. You're provided a coaching list, a list of players at the event. You're provided academic information and other information on the individuals. Can you talk a little bit about that and how grades have an impact before a coach even shows up to the field?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. I mean, I think there's just in the 20 years that I've been coaching at Roger Williams, and it feels like 40, as you can tell by my hairline, it looks that way too. You know, just change, and primarily there's so many kids playing lacrosse now, which is great. And yeah, there's so much more talent out there. And so how that's all evolved is grades is a big thing to start. If you are struggling academically, or I know some events kind of show what you might be interested in majoring in, that might help us. And I know sometimes you don't really always know what you're going to major in. It's kind of what you just put down. And it's tough to know what you're going to major in if you're a sophomore and kind of junior in high school, because I certainly didn't know. But yeah, it does kind of help weed things out a little bit from an academic standpoint. Every college coach wants to see, strong students. Now, sometimes your GPA might be lagging, and we'll kind of talk with certain players about that, because maybe some kids get diagnosed with a learning disability, but it's late, and they struggle their sophomore or junior year, but they're starting to trend up because they've just kind of figured it out. And so we certainly don't want to discount that, but it does play into it, because again, as you know, there's a lot of kids at a lot of events, so academics does play a big part in that. And but what I will say now, it's maybe 10, 12, 15 years ago, we used to kind of show up at events and look for certain high schools, the more traditional powerhouse high schools or areas or schools that we're familiar with. What makes it more challenging, and I'm sure Coach Murphy can attest to this too, but more exciting, is that there's just good players everywhere, and so you can't just single out kids, or try to focus on certain kids only because they play in certain areas or certain programs. Yeah, but grades certainly help. There's no question about
it. Okay. Next, so why do I want to attend one of these events if I'm a upcoming player that would like to play in college? Why do I want to go to a showcase camp, or why do I want to go to a prospect day?
I guess it's just, I guess So, prospect days really kind of kick the tires on a school, that's for sure, because I know that's usually going to that individual school to do it. Um, prospect days, you might want to get, you have an interest in a certain school and that coach is going to be there. And so I have had that a lot, running my little roadie showcases where, if a kid is interested in UMass Dartmouth or Babson or Nichols or Curry, and those coaches are going to be coaching a team, they might get asked to be put on that team to kind of get some exposure to that particular coach, helping him coach that team for the day. And it just, just might get you on other schools' radars that you might not really, you thought you might be interested in. And so just kind of expanding your horizons a little bit. Seeing what schools you might be a good fit for, at a showcase. Again, maybe a coach is there that you didn't think from a school that you didn't really have much interest in, and all of a sudden that becomes the right fit for you. So, it's exposure. It's also, we try to, I only really try to get coaches to work the showcase that makes it fun. So again, it's like hopefully you're meeting new people. Getting out of the zone a little bit too, and working with other players from other programs and other teams that you just, you're not used to seeing, and you kind of have to learn how to get along for the day too, and that shows a lot to the coaches as well.
Right. And I guess lastly, the timing. When do I need to attend one of these events, or when should I consider attending one of these events? I think level of play plays into it. Somebody seeking a very high-end program may want to consider things earlier than your typical Division III player. Can you touch on that a little?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good question. I guess since I am a Division III coach, I don't. Obviously, I think Division II and obviously Division I, their timeline is a little quicker. So, I would like to think by during your junior year at the latest, I guess you would have to kind of attend those if those were schools that you were seriously interested in. Obviously, there's there can be some athletic money involved in Division I and Division II, and so I know coaches want to kind of make quicker decisions because they only have a certain allotted scholarship money that they want to kind of be able to divvy out. But at Roger Williams, it's we never really stopped recruiting. We're actually still finalizing kids for next year, 2020s, and obviously the COVID situation has maybe contributed to that a little bit, where kids might be wanting to change their minds, maybe staying a little bit closer to home. But for us, at least I'm speaking for Roger Williams, we know I'm very, I respect the process of other schools, and every school is different. We're never really looking at trying to set a roster by a certain date. I know some schools want to have all their 2020s committed by November or maybe October. Higher level Division I's and II's maybe already had those already done that previous spring. So it's all, again, like you said, it's all at the level that you want to play at. All I can really comfortably say is from a Roger Williams standpoint is that even if we have a fall event of your senior year and you're still looking, we are too, because we just never know. And we had a player graduate last season who was a 4-time all-conference defenseman for us, 3-time first-team all-conference. And granted, he's from Duxbury, Mass. Everybody knows about Duxbury, but he was a hockey kid. He was playing lacrosse, but really wanted to pretty much play hockey. And back when he was looking at schools, junior, senior year, he was playing behind 3 close defensemen at Duxbury that had already committed to Division I schools as sophomores. That's back when you could kind of do that. The good thing for us is that he fell through the cracks and decided maybe hockey's not the fit. We had some other Duxbury players at our program that had a great experience, and all of a sudden he kind of trickles down into our lap a little bit. And he hadn't actually come to any of our prospect days or showcase camps because, again, it wasn't really kind of on his radar. But I always bring up that story because if Roger Williams had kind of said, all right, we already have our roster set for next year, and all of a sudden this kid comes to us, and by his senior year, he was playing better than any defender Duxbury had that year, and um, we just kind of had the trickle down effect. So in a long-winded way, Coach, again, the ones and twos, you'd have to do it a lot sooner. And I think threes, and Coach Murphy might be able to attest to this as well. My philosophy too sometimes is we don't always have to be the first choice. We just have to be the last in a lot of ways. And when I think back to my Nazareth College experience, I was a two-time All-American in high school, but I wasn't really being all that recruited all that well, or as highly as maybe I thought. And I wasn't overly concerned about, feeling like I had to play Division One. And I really just came across Nazareth by happenstance, where my brother was playing for Washington College, and which is another Division III school down in Maryland. They were actually playing up at Nazareth, and me and my mother decided to send them on some Sunday in early April, and that's how I came across Nazareth College. I had no idea about it, and then I started looking at the roster, and I started seeing some guys from my area that I didn't even realize was going there. And obviously, this was before the internet and social media. Found out that Scott Nelson, a really dynamic coach from a great lacrosse family from Yorktown, the town next over, was the head coach, and that's how I ended up at Nazareth. And I had a lot of people tell me I was crazy for going there. How come you're not going to Syracuse and North Carolina and all these schools? And I kind of responded, well, one, I wasn't getting recruited there, and so. And I will say, UMass I was very interested. University of Delaware I was interested in, but they weren't really interested in me. And maybe Nazareth wasn't the first choice for me, but it was the best choice, and it's been great. And so I've tried to use that philosophy at Roger Williams. If you feel you can play one Division II, that's great. Do everything you can to do it. And I'm never going to tell a kid that he can't do anything. And if they were not their first choice, I'll say, look, we're still interested in you. If things don't work out, keep us in mind. And we've had kids do that, where kids can transfer in down the road. So, again, in a long-winded way, yes, it's, you might want to get to some of those higher level schools sooner, but try not to get discouraged either, because there's a place for everybody. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think we're hearing a reoccurring theme from some of the other coaches that we spoke to, and Chris Feist from Vermont last week really compounded what you're saying here by saying there's no hurry. Coaches have a spot for players. Coaches maintain spots on their roster through through the fall of the kid's senior year. So that there's opportunities. Don't feel like you have freshmen. Don't feel like you have to go get on the computer and sign up for prospect days and showcase camps. Understand that prospect days are an intimate way to get to know a program and a school. Prospect days should be used as a differentiator between the schools you're looking at. As you get further down the line and your college list starts shortening, it becomes a way of shortening your list, as Coach Kelly talked about. So you can start to, as you go into this, you don't know what you don't know. So as you go through some of these experiences, you learn what you like and what you want, and you learn what you don't like and don't want. So it is important to learn what you can about these schools as you get further down the line, and that's a great role the prospect days can serve. So understand that about the prospect days and the showcase camps. Understand there's kind of two different showcase camps, in my opinion. There are the ones like Coach Kelly runs, the Little Roadie down at Roger Williams. This is an event that is it's its own event, meaning we travel to some tournaments and play in some tournaments, and oftentimes in the tournaments we play in, there'll be a showcase the day before for individuals to come play, get in front of coaches in a much less intimate way. where you're trying to again, quote unquote, showcase yourself. So this has been great, Marty. I really appreciate you taking the time to be with us
Coach.
today. And
Ryan, you got a question?
Coach, we got one question here from a player. So for the Kings, we told the players that when making their highlight films that coaches are looking for lacrosse IQ, versatility, and athleticism. Are you looking for the same things at a prospect day? And if so, how do you design the day to evaluate these characteristics? If not, what are the key things you look for, Marty, at your prospect day?
Yeah, a lot of it is fundamentals, you know, and really kind of sometimes identifying kids who might have kind of bad or lazy habits. You know, we try to that's some of the things that we try to look for right away, which again is, you know, maybe unfair to do and just to, you know, do out on the field, but you know, we might do some kind of ground ball work and a little bit of ground ball drills to see who you know, who can really effectively pick up a ground ball, you know, kind of what they're looking to do. You know, we'll try to do some smaller 6-on-6 stuff or small sided stuff. Really, you know, I think I mentioned a little bit before about you know, and a lot of stuff, and I know it's tough maybe on highlight videos but it's, you know, what are you doing off ball? You know, how are you riding? Stuff like that. You know, if you're an attackman, you know, are you riding hard, or are you just kind of letting the ball go over your head and, you know, you just let the middies do the dirty work? You know, how hard are you working there? Defensively, you know, again, where are you 2 passes away? Are you sloughing in? How are your approaches? You know, in the clearing game, what are you doing? Are you staying even with your goalie? You know, pulls, all these kind of stuff that you know, you might not really see as much, you know, in a highlight tape. So, you know, even by just doing some stuff where we are kind of clearing the ball, do you have kind of that innate sense to kind of get to the proper spots, or at least communicate where you're kind of going? You know, middies, are you coming to kind of help support the ball? Again, middies, are you riding? You know, one thing I know most coaches, and I'm sure your coaching study, we don't exactly like to see middies sprinting towards the box to sub off the field, especially if the other team's getting a potential fast break, which can be kind of red flags, because if you're not exactly willing to play defense from the midfield standpoint. So, you know, we try to do some stuff that's to kind of be able to try to identify who's kind of been well coached, you know, who's got strong fundamentals. I am pretty old school, passing and catching, of just, you know, catching it, you know, soft hands, keeping everything kind of above your shoulders as much as possible. Because you get a lot of hot dogs out there, and sometimes there's a little too much mustard on those hot dogs, right? So we want to identify that.
Awesome. Well, great response. And to reiterate, Coach Clements, thank you so much for coming on, Coach Kelly. We greatly appreciate it.
Guys, I really appreciate you having me, and I hope you know, I hope all you guys on the call are really hanging in. I know it's just it's something no one ever expected, you know, and it's just you know, I give you guys a lot of credit for hanging in there. I know it's been tough for obviously the current seniors, our seniors, all of our players. So just keep working hard, keep your head up, and hopefully we'll see you guys this summer.
Awesome, thanks, Marty.
Thank you guys again. I appreciate it.
Coach Clements, how much time do we have?
About 4 minutes.
All right, real quick, guys. I just want to go over one thing. One, Ronan, please mute yourself. Everyone else, guys, I just want to reiterate what, you know, when you go to these showcase days or prospect days, specifically the showcases, make sure that you do a little bit of homework, right? Look on the website and see what coaches are coming. All right, because when you go to these showcases, there are sometimes hundreds of kids, right? So again, a showcase is a great opportunity to play, but look at what coaches are going and reach out to them. Say, hey, coach, I'm really interested in your school. Shoot them a little note. I'd love to have you watch me play. Because I'll tell you, even, you know, at these club tournaments, at the showcases, I go, and any kid that contacts me, I make sure I see them, right? Because it narrows it down to a kid that's really interested, instead of me just looking at a wide net of players. So I can't stress enough, there's got to be a little bit of homework on you guys' end to reach out to these coaches. Again, showcases, if you're looking for an extra event to plan in the summer or fall, and there are some coaches that you're interested in that are there, it's a great way to attend and get yourself seen and evaluated by those coaches.
Great point, Coach. Because if you can have a coach have a mark next to your name before he's even got out of his car at the event, you stand a much better chance at having him see you, notice you, and start that relationship than him just showing up and you hoping that he sees you. So good point, Coach. That's all for today. Again, if there's anybody who has not yet filled out one of our questionnaires for us, please do so. We're just about through figuring out who has not done them. And then we're going to start using this information to be setting up some one-on-one meetings with you guys. Is that anything we want to talk about right now, Coach, or we're going to be sending something out?
No, we'll send something out, but we can tell you we will not meet with anybody until they fill out the questionnaire. Okay, we can't help you guys until we have that information. So please fill it out.
And for those of you that have, thank you very much. All right. So stay well, help your parents, help your siblings, stay safe, and keep up your schoolwork. See you guys.
Thank you, Coach.
Thank you.
Thank you, Coach.
You got it.